All right, Mike, thank you very much for joining us. If you can just give a brief introduction of who you are and what you do for a living now, then we'll get started.
Sure, my pleasure. TJ, thanks a million for having me. I'm Mike Keiser. I'm the co-owner of ECircle Marketing. We're a small full-service digital marketing agency right in downtown Manchester. As I said, we're a small group. There's a grand total of 8 of us. We do web design, we do search engine optimization, search engine marketing, social media marketing, email campaigns. We bring in professional video production people or commercial photographers when necessary. So we're just a small, but again, full service digital marketing agency, mostly working with small-ish privately held businesses and some nonprofits. Also, longtime member of the chamber, member of the board of directors of the chamber, and a big fan of Manchester overall. So,
Great. So how did you decide to open your own business?
wow, that's a I'll make it very short, but I was in my last real job, I'll call it, with a company called New England Mobile X-Ray. I was on call. I was down at Danbury Hospital one Sunday and talking to one of the radiologists that was about to read some x-rays I had just shot. And he said, did you know that Mark and I are leaving the hospital? We're opening our own radiology practice. And he said to me, have you ever thought of starting your own business? And I looked at him and I said, not until this very second. And that was it. Then I've since since what year? Since 96, I've never worked for anybody else ever again. So,
Now, we talked before, and you mentioned that you were in the military and spent some time in San Antonio. So let's go a little bit through, like, after high school, what did you do? And you mentioned also going to college, but what did you go to college for?
sure. Wow. Like, I guess most people's story, it's not a direct line. It's a, it's a quite a circuitous route. I joined the Army because I was accepted into warrant officer flight training. I wanted to be a helicopter pilot. So my intention of joining the military was to be a pilot um, in what they call primary flight phase. So you go through warrant officer entry course, and then you go through 3 phases of flight training. In my first phase of flight training, they call it primary flight. Uh, I broke my leg real badly on a run, and I got what's called a down slip, which means I was not allowed to fly anymore. I was actually given the option to leave the military or choose another field. I became an X-ray tech, and X-ray tech school was in San Antonio, which is one of the greatest places I've ever been. I absolutely loved San Antonio, and then went from there. Fort Knox, Kentucky, Korea, Fort Devens, Massachusetts, Iraq. Spent time, in the Middle East in the first Gulf War. Um, and then came out, thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I got a degree in natural science and studied also a lot of physics and chemistry, um, and did not get accepted into medical school, believe it or not. So uh, that's when I was working then for this company, New England Mobile X-Ray, and got the entrepreneurial itch. Started a company that was medically related. We did on-site bone density testing for osteoporosis, and that business went really, really well until it didn't. And so what I mean by that is because a lot of hospitals and larger medical practices started getting their own bone density equipment. Insurance reimbursements went down. So we not only lost client base, but we lost revenue as well. But um, so we ended that business, but realized that what I loved the most was the business of business and growing a business. So American Mobile Skin, our bone density company, grew that from an idea to at its peak about 2 million a year in revenue. And I really fell in love with growing businesses. So I am officially totally unqualified to own a marketing agency. Completely, absolutely, totally unqualified. But we've let's see, this April 23rd will be our 18th year in business. So
Well, you're doing something
sorry
right.
if that was a very long answer.
No, not at all. And qualifications, success is its own qualifier. So, I think being in business for 18 years, that says something. So, you've been around since 18 years. So you started ECircle Marketing about 2003. Why ECircle Marketing?
Uh, Again, because what found I really loved and had a good knack for was growing a business. So reaching an audience or having an audience grasp or understand a message, and also having gotten the entrepreneurial itch back in '96. Loved just loved being around people that were what's the phrase, in the arena, that were out there doing it, that were taking their chances. A lot have succeeded, a lot have failed, it's just it's a really cool world to I was having margaritas with a former client. He's a very successful business owner, and we were just talking, and he said, Mike, we are like wild animals that just we're probably unhireable because we're just like wild animals that have to do it our way. And I kind of love people that have that spirit, and to help them, people. So the old cliche, but cliches are cliche because a lot of the time they're true. They say people start a business because they're good at something,
Right.
good at building a widget or providing a service. And it's really cool to help those particular businesses grow, be found on the internet, and bring more clients in and expose how good they are at their product or service. So it's sort of shallow to say it's really fun, but it's really fun.
So how did you come up with the name ECircle?
Entrepreneur. So the actually the official name, the legal name, if you will, of the company is the Entrepreneur Circle. But it's a DBA as ECircle Marketing. But because it was really built for that small business owner. And when I say small, the average size of our client is about 2 million a year in revenue. So they're small, but they're established. Usually the founder is still the owner, although we have a couple of second, even a third generation company as a client. That's not the norm. Most people are still in charge every day. So the ECircle came from Entrepreneur Circle.
Nice. Now, you mentioned last time we talked that you work with a lot of startups as a consultant rather than bringing them on board as a full service client. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. So it's so most of the people that we work with will say, I understand what we need. Can you just do it for me? And some of the things, I won't sugarcoat it. Some of the things cost money. So one of the big things that we've really borderline insist our clients engage in is search engine optimization, for example. But it isn't cheap. It's not cheap at all. So for us to become somebody's full service marketing department, their outsourced marketing department, it can be upwards. This isn't typical, but it can be upwards of $2,000 a month.
Mm.
Most startups, and which is cheaper than hiring a full-time marketing
Yeah.
person in your company. But for an average startup, $24,000 in a year is not terribly realistic.
Right.
So one of the things we love to do, we either do them in workshops or do them individually, is help new businesses be do-it-yourselfers. So help them understand the kinds of content that they should be creating and putting out. We talk a ton, for example, about the value of video. We are huge advocates of video, not only because people retain more information from video, but they feel like they get to know you. They feel like they get to know your personality. You don't always need to bring in a professional video producer. You have this, like you have your phone. If you have something valuable to say, you can shoot a 60-second video on your cell phone. The production value is not necessarily relevant if you're putting out something that is interesting and relevant to your target audience. So for startups, it's really helping them to be good do-it-yourselfers, because they can't really afford to hire a full service agency much of the time. Yeah, and I was talking to a client yesterday, and she was saying, I don't know if this is good or bad. She said, but how good you are at your service or how good you are at your product is really important. But she said, for your business to survive, you need to be really good at getting your word out, at educating your target audience and letting the world know you exist. And so for startups, we're really happy to consult with them about things they can do themselves, because you can't tell somebody that just started a business, hey, here's a marketing plan, it's only going to cost you $2,000 a month. After their jaw comes off the floor, they'll say no thanks. So
right. So you said your average client really asks you to do stuff that they don't necessarily have time or the expertise to do, right? So can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, because we have a lot of students that may dabble in social media. We have students that are getting a social media specialist certificate, like stuff that I'm really trying to focus on businesses that we could show, hey, this is a possible career path when you're gone, or when you're out of MCC.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So I was kind of hoping you would ask a question around that, because if there is so the biggest problem that most small businesses have is that they are invisible on the internet. So we just brought on a new client, for example, and they're in a home improvement field, and there are two competitors that they have that have been eating them up on Google. So they're and the company we're bringing on, from their own testimony, are very good at what they do, but they were just simply not being found on the internet. So for MCC students that are looking into the marketing world, one of the first things we talked about, TJ, is search engine optimization. And I sometimes get accused of speaking in black and white, but one thing I strongly believe, that if a company is not engaging in search engine optimization as far as marketing, they're almost not doing anything. It's so important. It's so important to be found organically online, especially on Google. So for students that are in the marketing world, learning search engine optimization and learning search engine marketing, so paid search, pay per click and that sort of thing, the need for that is only going to explode. It's only going to explode. The need for paid social media, so paid Facebook, paid LinkedIn, the knowledge, the need for that is only going to explode. I believe strongly, now statistics are statistics, and I'm totally making this up, but I believe if you are in the market for, I don't know, let's call it a pair of running shoes, I believe that 70% of the buyer's journey takes place before they ever actually speak to a human being about it. So meaning you're going to go online, you're going to look up those running shoes, you're going to read reviews about those running shoes, you're going to look at Google reviews on running shoes. So anybody that has the skill set of helping a business be not only found but be credible online is a skill set that is only going to grow. More and more and more and more people are going to be doing business online. And what's wonderful about the internet is it's easy to put out your own content. It's easy to put out your stuff. What's terrible about the internet is we are being bombarded. This is not a made up, this isn't my made up statistic. This is actually real, that between audio ads, between pop-up ads, between radio, between TV, between print ads, wherever we are, we're being bombarded more than 2,000 times a day, people trying to get our attention. So much of it becomes white noise.
Right.
So developing the skill set of helping people be found and engaged with on the internet is only going to get bigger.
Awesome. Is there an achievement or a contribution that you're most proud of?
You mean professionally or
Yes,
otherwise?
yeah, professionally. I mean, you know, as a parent, I'm sure you know. Oh, you know,
yeah, I mean, my kids are great, right? Right, yeah. But wow, yes, there is, but it's a strange one. So I told you when the medical imaging, when the bone density business went bad, and to say it went bad, like it was. So I guess the biggest thing I'm most proud of is bouncing back from that and reinventing as ECircle. That's, I think, the thing I am the most proud of, is that had to what is it that Mike Tyson said once? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah,
And
right.
and I got punched in the face, but we came back. And I'm not saying the comeback's been easy by any stretch. I have a friend, a doctor that started a couple of outpatient clinics doing occupational therapy. This is several years back, and he called me one time, and he goes, Mike, I wouldn't feel like a real business owner if unless at least twice a day I didn't want to slash my damn wrists. And so sometimes being a business owner feels that way. So I guess what I'm most proud of is just coming back and then dealing with starting a business all over again, but living to tell the tale. So
That's awesome. So how about something that maybe you thought you knew going into owning your own business that you quickly realized you didn't?
Oh yeah. I think it's the thing that led to wanting to become a marketing agency, which is the big thing, the big thing that hits you in the face right away, is that just because I'm open for business doesn't mean that anybody knows or cares. Like that's a huge one. Just because you quote unquote hang out your shingle,
Yep.
that absolutely does not mean you're going to get customers. So that was like a holy mackerel kind of moment. I know, oh, I got to go out and sell stuff, right? Yeah.
That's awesome. So what would you say to someone considering getting into the marketing industry? I mean, you brought up a couple of things that would be useful to know, but what's something that, you know, if somebody's really passionate about it, what would you kind of counsel them before getting into it?
Into the field of marketing?
Yeah.
To to decide who you would like to work with. So where you fit in, for example. So there's a small agency like ours. You know, we're as I said, a grand total of 8. There's a there's several big agencies in Connecticut. One that I'm really good friends with, we have a lot of back and forth, is a company called Impact Branding and Design. And I I think they are over 70 employees now.
Hmm.
And they work with a whole different clientele than we do. So think somebody going into marketing, the one thing I would want them to know is what I mentioned before, is that the need for any business of any size to be found on the internet is only going to expand. It's not going to go away. But think about where you would like to fit in. So maybe you get hired by a small business and be their inside marketing department, their head of marketing. Some people love that role. Some people want to work with a small group like ours. Some people want to be part of a big organization that's working with much bigger clients, doing 50 million, 100 million a year in revenue, and be part of a big agency like Impact. So I would think what the goal is not going to change. It's to be found. It's to engage potential clients. It's where do you individually feel like you best fit in as an employee in a small company, an employee in a small agency, an employee in a large agency, starting your own niche business, where it just feel like, or think about where do you feel like you best fit?
Yes.
And because there's going to be a fit wherever you best fit, there's going to be a place for you.
Right.
It's only going to get bigger. So think about
That's
what you love and the kind of place where you think you could thrive and be your best self.
so you're the second business that I'm interviewing for this series, and you're the second one to say that, right?
Oh, really?
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So our first was Megan Calipari, Earthly Provision. She's a plant-based bakery in Cambridge, up by Boston, and
Nice.
she talked at length about how, have a niche, or a niche, know what you want to do, because she
Mhm.
apparently at an early age, she was talking about how she knew when she was little she wanted to be a pastry chef, and I said, well, when I was little, I wanted to be in the army, I wanted to be a police, I wanted a lawyer, I was like, yeah, I
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
one of the sexy jobs. I didn't know that I would find my passion in higher ed. So
Hmm.
it's interesting that this is a kind of a theme developing, that know where you want to kind of end up, and that is going to drive you.
You know, TJ, so you just bring up an interesting point, though. So if I could add to that, I I would I wouldn't change what I said or what she was saying, but also I wonder if at 22, for example, maybe you don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. So find a fit for now and let it be a learning experience, because you're going to get other experiences. Things are going to say, you're going to say, oh, but maybe I'd really like to do that. So I think now it's not uncommon for adult Americans to not only change jobs at least 7 or 8 times in their adult life, but actually fully change careers 2 or 3 times. So I guess that would be another message that I would want people to know is what might be a perfect fit right now might be a perfect fit right now, but don't avoid the learning or letting that be a springboard for your next thing. You don't have to know at 20 or 22 what you want to do for the rest of your life. I feel like that's completely unrealistic,
Right.
especially in 2021. It
Yeah.
just feels unrealistic.
Yeah, I talk with students during orientation, and I tell them that. I go, I'm a Gen X, and we were the first generation that went from changing jobs 5 or 6 or 7 times to potentially changing entire career fields 2 or 3 times. And now,
Hmm.
anybody post millennial, yeah, I mean, especially at the rate technology is going. I talk a lot with people about how 15 years from now, we're not going to have McDonald's take up an entire street corner, right? I mean, you're looking at
Mhm.
the way robotics are going, that it could end up the size of an ATM. You pull up and go, hey, I want a Big Mac, and it puts it all together
Right.
and spits it out.
That's
So
right.
that's going to displace a significant section of the workforce. The more the technology advances, the more we're going to have to be able to adapt. And to your point, I mean, that could mean entire fields disappearing.
Right. It could be disappear, or you decide. So I was going to be a doctor, and now I own a marketing agency.
Right.
It's okay. It's totally okay if you're 22, 23, 24 and go to work in some field or some job, but then you get new information or you get
Yeah.
new insight and you say, you know what I would really like to do? I'd like to do this instead. And so I guess that would be my biggest message is that is perfectly okay. It's perfectly legit to change your mind at some point and pursue something else. And I don't know why we humans sometimes pigeonhole ourselves, but it is completely okay to change direction.
That's awesome. So, so you've been doing this for a while. What inspires you?
uh Getting the biggest thing candidly is getting to create my own path.
Yeah.
That's what inspires me the most, even when it hasn't gone well. I kind of not kind of I get very inspired by getting to do it my own way. That keeps me going. It's just getting to design what I want to do. It doesn't always work out exactly the way I
Yeah.
want, but that's the biggest inspiration. Yeah,
Hold on a second.
sure.
Working from home, the joys of
Yeah.
4-year-olds with remote control in their hands. Um, is there anything else you'd like to share with our students?
Wow. Maybe reiterating kind of some of the things we talk about, that the adage of following your passion is quite true. I think everybody should engage in something they love, but the business owner slash capitalist side of me says you also have to do something that you can make a living in. Um, and I don't mean to be blunt that way, but you could have a passion. So I don't know, you could have a passion in something that is absolutely unmarketable. So I would encourage students to do things that you love. Don't be afraid to change jobs. Don't be afraid to change careers. Don't be afraid to change your mind. But please keep in mind that you also want to do something, as a successful business owner said to me one time a long time ago, you also want to be able to make a buck. And I'm sorry if that sounds blunt, but
No, not at all.
you gotta be able to make a buck.
Yeah.
Uh,
Is there a question I should have asked you that, because you know yourself better than anybody, right? So there may be something that you really wanted to talk about that you would have asked yourself and I didn't.
oh, I no, I thought you did great. I totally enjoyed it. I just yeah, I no, I think you did. I can't expand on the message enough of just do do what you're meant to be do what you're meant to be doing. So I no, I can't think of a question that you should have asked. Well, okay, one I just hit me is is owning a business always a bed of roses? and or something along those
Yeah.
lines. And no, sometimes there I've laid in bed in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how payroll is going to be made. You go through all of that stuff. So it's one of those things like um, becoming an actor or a musician. You only should do it if you have to. So as far as owning a business, I would say only do it if you have to. If you're pushed, there was some famous director on Broadway, I forget who it was, that said, I don't want people that want to be actors. I want people that have to be actors. Like they just have no other way. And that's who I would encourage to open their own business. So other than that, no, I think we covered a lot. I've really enjoyed
Awesome.
this.
And now, if a student was interested in looking at ECircle Marketing and what you do and the services you provide, how would they find you?
Oh, well, ecirclemarketing.com is a great place. That's a great place. Also there eCircle Marketing is on Facebook and eCircle Marketing is on LinkedIn. And we love, well, thanks to you, we actually have an intern that's starting on Monday. And anybody else that's looking for real life, real time marketing experience could on our website, they'll find phone numbers, emails. We would, if any student ever wanted to just talk to us even in more detail about the field of digital marketing, we're wide open to that too. So
Awesome.
we encourage and we love engagement and love being part of the community.
That's fantastic, Mike. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, TJ. Great to see you.
Good to see you. Have a good one.